in, that means you're feeling the vibe. The bell rung, you already been subscribed. Right now, the queen, she on live. Please pull over the whip, no phoning when you drive. Dope Soul sporting with the talk. First lady from New York, Brooklyn. All my people, you rocking with the chat. Hit that. The like button would tell me where you at. You know, step from the MBK. Born and raised up MBK. Hey, real lady when she holding it down. No matter way how you feel, she gon' greet you with a smile.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
What?
Dope Soul.
What?
Your soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Salute, Knick family. Uncle Freezie and I in the Knick neighborhood going around the block on Knick-related topics. Some of the topics you may have already heard discussed, but they not putting it down like we putting it down. Raw, real, and uncut. First up, yes, I want to get Freezie's thoughts on Fournier. I know he talked about it. I've talked about it, but I actually haven't heard his thoughts. So we'll go through that really quick. Was he given a raw deal by the Knicks? Did Thibodeau tank his value? What was the alternative? All that type of stuff. We'll talk about that quickly. But are the Knicks done for the offseason? And if this is the team that's going into the season with no other changes, what's the ceiling? And is it possible, for the Knicks to end up in the 3rd seed? What's up, Freezie? How you doing?
What's good, boss?
I'm good. Always a pleasure chopping it up. Lunchtime. Takes on your lunch break.
Bim. Only thing we ain't got is the napkins. Bim.
No doubt.
There we go. There we go.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say shout out to Jay Boogie with a fire intro.
Yeah.
Shout out to the hip hop legend Jay Boogie in the place to be, man. My main man. He got music coming out. So if you like that type of thing, support people in Knicks universe, support the family in Knicks universe, man. Hit that like button, subscribe. Y'all know the vibes.
Yeah. No doubt about it. I do want to make a quick announcement. So I'm doing a series called I Cram to Understand You. Shout out to MC Light. Hip hop heads already know. And it's basically about taking a topic or a player and getting opposing views on it, and then sticking with that topic across multiple platforms. So I started with Randall only because I was able to get Stafford Don on yesterday on the audio podcast. I got a text out to Anthony D to get the other side of Randall. And part of it is there are certain things in Knick universe that I truly don't understand. I just don't understand. And so this series is about me cramming to understand the opposing view. So I got Anthony D, who, if I'm not mistaken, is not a huge Randall fan. So it'll give me some insight into where he's coming from. We're going to also do a Tuesday chat show. And on that show, you'll get an opportunity to call in. You'll have an opportunity to hop on the show for 2 to 3 minutes to give your take. You can also DM me or email me with questions for the panel prior to the chat show. So the focus is really going to be on the chat. Then I have my weekly newsletter coming out tonight on Dope Soul Sports Talk. I have the link for you to sign up to the newsletter. It's sports and life, right? There's other parts of me. So if you're interested in the other parts of me, my foodie self, my travel self, my mental health and wellness self, because I'm a mental health and wellness professional, and obviously sports.
The intellectual
stuff, yes.
Right.
The Knicks, Giants, and Liberty, all of that is going to be in the newsletter. Yeah, photos. I like taking photos, particularly of landscapes. So that'll be there as well. So it's an opportunity for you to get to know me a little better. But if you're only interested in the sports, scroll right down to the bottom. You'll see it in big headlines and just focus on the sports. So that'll be coming. I'll have the link for you tonight. And then on this same theme, I hope to put out just a quick 5 to 7 minute video on just my takes, because sometimes, and that way it'll be in one space. You ain't got to go back through the panel show to see what I had to say about the topic. There'll be a video on it. So
and your words don't get, people don't twist your words.
Correct.
Take your stuff out of context.
Correct. Yeah. There'll be a video receipt right there. So
for people that keep receipts.
Correct. For those that and there are a few who do.
Oh, they love
So
it.
that's coming up. But shout out to the chat. Freezie, I didn't get your take on the Fournier article. I did not read the entire article. It was in French. It was behind a paywall, and I did
Yeah.
not choose to subscribe.
Yeah.
But I read pretty much every article with the excerpts on it. And then we had a show on Queen's Court, and Eru and a few others read the whole article, so they were able to add some more to it as well. But before we move on to the topic of the day, I just want to know, what did you think about the article?
I think the article was pointed. I think that they had a clear objective, right? With the interview, the objective was, hey man, get me off this team. That was the objective. There was certain things said, but there was kind of like some shade towards the Knicks front office. Not that he had disrespect for them or lack of respect, but there were things where you take the whole situation into context. Right? Like Evan Fournier wasn't looking for the Knicks. The Knicks went to France to talk to him, right? Before they signed him. Right. And then they valued him so much that they gave the Boston Celtics 2 second-round picks and a sign and trade for Evan Fournier. And Evan Fournier just wanted to play. Right? He was like, yo, I listen, I understand situations change. I just want to play, whether it's here or somewhere else. You know, I don't have no ill will. Now, where things to kind of get ill at is when you know I want to play and you know I'm in my prime and you won't let me either play here or go play somewhere else. I think that's where Evan Fournier's thing was. And as the stuff that I read and the reactions that I saw to Evan Fournier is that he was taking shots at the Knicks. I think he is only getting to this point because all these windows for him to be traded have come and gone. The NBA trade deadline, the NBA draft, then the new league year free agency, all of that stuff have come and gone, and he's still a Knick. And he knows that he's not going to play. And basically his career is on the line. He can't afford to sit the bench this year, get his player option, his team option terminated, and then go into free agency next summer because he won't have any value.
Right.
So my man is saying, listen, just move me somewhere, do something. That's the impression that I got. There was some other parts to it.
Yeah, he was frustrated.
Yeah, he's
frustrated.
Yeah. And can you blame him for being frustrated though?
No, I can't blame him for being frustrated. But two things could be true at the same time: that he's frustrated, but the Knicks are not intentionally trying to tank his value. Like the Knicks are also thinking about it from an organizational perspective, you know, as well. They may need that contract in a trade, you know. So, yeah, do you just move them on for 2 second-round draft picks, which seems to be the going, you know, the going rate, or are you still hoping that somebody might become available that you can use his contract in? So I get it. I think for me, the frustration with the Knicks fans is in the revisionist history. Like we don't remember, like, oh, Tibbs is tanking his value. They should have played him. But nobody remembers when we were 10-13 and really struggling as a team with this 10-man rotation, and how a lot of fans was already calling for Fournier to be out of the lineup. A lot of fans, even before the season, wanted to know why are we playing the vets, period, when there are young players that we can develop who, you know, may help us more in that position, namely Grimes, because he was a two-way player. I think
we were saying that in the 2021 season.
That's what I'm saying. So I think people forget all about that, and now the article comes back and the Knicks did him wrong and Tibbs did him wrong, and they shouldn't have tanked his value and they should have played him, without the understanding that who are you taking out of the lineup? And even if you're not taking a player out of the lineup, whose minutes are you decreasing so Fournier can play? And do you feel comfortable with a lineup of Brunson, Fournier, and RJ Barrett.
What I'm saying is the way I view it is all parties are not connected, right? Tom Thibodeau in this situation only, Tom Thibodeau and the front office are not connected. Like what I'm saying is once Tibbs told Evan Fournier he wasn't going to be in the rotation, then the front office had a separate issue.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Do we have this money clogging? Do we clog up the stuff with this money off the bench, knowing how stubborn Tibbs is? Like once Tibbs is through with you, and I'm not saying this is a flaw, because a lot of people are like that. Once somebody's through with you personally or whatever it is professionally, a lot of times they don't circle back to you. Right? It's just how some people are. Like if once they get their use, they don't have no more use for you. Right? So I'm not knocking Tibbs because I know people like that in real life. Right? What I'm saying is once Tibbs got to a point where he wasn't going to play Fournier anymore, I think the courtesy probably should have been do something with Fournier, because that man is about to turn 30. And you know what I'm saying? If you want to kind of be, you don't want to be an organization that has that reputation of, you know, you sign Austin Rivers and then you bench him. You sign Kemba Walker and then you bench him. You got Derrick Rose and then you bench him. You got Evan Fournier and then you bench him. Right? You don't want to be that organization that's like, every time I get Tibbs get a veteran guard, he gonna triumph a little bit, and then there's this developing pattern. You know what I'm saying? If I'm the organization, I kind of would have intercepted that, because now when you recruit other guards, now it's like, you know, nah, no, thank you, I'll pass. I'm not really, you know, set on New York, and I know people don't want to think forward to like this thing will happen to Dante DiVincenzo. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it happened with Austin Rivers, it happened with Kemba Walker, it happened with Derrick Rose, it happened with Fournier. And if you're a veteran guard, do you consider signing with the Knicks after you saw this? So I'm thinking ahead of the curve, like, no, listen, this thing happened. Let me move him on. He just wasn't a fit. He was the consummate professional. A professional guy, did everything the team asked him to do. He's just not in our plans. Our young guys develop faster than what we thought. And so we're just playing the young guys. And if we were a veteran-laden team, of course, Fournier would get. That would be the message I would be sending, as opposed to not saying anything and just letting this thing fester.
Right. Well, what I will say to that, though, is the four guards you mentioned are four guards that's not that good, and who are guards who didn't really play well when they were with us. Like, there was reasons. It wasn't just like, just wake up one morning and I don't feel like playing Austin Rivers anymore. I don't feel like playing Fournier anymore. I don't feel like playing Kemba. Like, there were basketball reasons to not play those guys. And when I look at Dante DiVincenzo and I look at Jalen Brunson, I don't think that's going to be their fate at all, because those guys know how to play.
Not.
Well, they know how to play. They, you know, they're in their prime. They're contributors. Austin Rivers is a journeyman. You know, Derrick Rose is at the end of, you know, his career. Fournier was on a team that was 10-13, and at the time he was shooting 32%. And then you had a Grimes that, you know, and I question this too, must have been tearing it up in practice. Must have been tearing it up in practice, or you know. Or they drafted him and they wanted to push him into that spot.
I think the second option. I think the second thing you said.
Maybe a little sooner than, you know, than he was ready.
Because if he was tearing it up in practice, they would have been showcasing some of that stuff in the game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's my thought on it.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you on that. And then the second thing I will say, in terms of, you know, you want to move him out because you don't want this to fester. You're always balancing that with asset management. So you're balancing, we don't want this reputation. This is festering. We need to move this guy out with, but this guy can be an $18 million piece of a trade if somebody comes along. Right. So that's the balance that I think the front office was toggling back and forth with, and is still toggling back and forth with. Do you just, and at this point now, do you even have him if you're not able to move him? Do you
The
ask him?
The Knicks not doing a big trade. That's the biggest myth in Knicks universe.
But even if not, you want to have, even if they're not doing it because no one is available, if you just want
people
to
be
have
available.
your ducks in a row, if it were to happen, because if you move him out for 2 second-round piece, that piece is gone off the table.
Right.
And now you're trying to make up salary with other pieces other than Fournier. I'm just saying could be part of their thinking.
It could be part of their thinking, but for one that reads the Knicks tea leaves, probably more than I should.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing that. That the big trade is not the goose that laid the golden egg is not a scenario for the Knicks. And I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like the bearer of bad news or the raining on the parade or the wet blanket, but if, and I know the topic is Fournier, but if there was a scenario where there was a guy available, I think the Knicks would make the move. And I mean available for what they're willing to pay, not just available in general. Because people were available, right? We've seen a bunch of stars traded, whether people like these guys, like these names or not. But a Gobert was traded, a Beal was traded, a Kevin Durant was traded, a Kyrie Irving was traded. I mean, there are a lot. Kristaps Porzingis, Donovan Mitchell was traded, right? So there were a lot of people traded, and the Knicks did nothing during that time, which that's okay if that's their stance. If the Knicks are saying, listen, we are not going to get in those sweepstakes for those guys because that's expensive, I respect that, right? But I think as people that read the tea leaves, I think sometimes we're thinking like maybe 2 steps ahead of the Knicks, like the big trade is coming. And then when you ask them about what big trade, there is no name out there. So when it comes to the Fournier thing, what I would do is the professional courtesy thing. Like, I'm not ready to play my hand yet. Mm-hmm. So instead of holding on to these low trumps or whatever, these low spades, I'll just go ahead and let Fournier, just for the sake of goodwill, right? Let the NBA know that, we ain't gonna hold cats hostage, man. You know what I'm saying? You want to go play, go, say we take a L. I mean, they trust me, they did it with Obi. They could have held Obi until next year, right? They didn't have to trade Obi. You know what I'm saying? They was like, yeah, we gotta, we reached the end of the road with Obi, man. We just gotta move him so everybody can be happy. Right. And I think that's the thing with Fournier too. Just move on, man. Trade him to Brook. I don't care.
But the team has to be able to absorb that $18 or $19 million contract. So I think that may also be an issue too for the incoming team, for the team.
Or trade exception for the Knicks.
Right, for the Knicks, but the team that he goes to has to be able to take on his salary without going over the salary cap.
Yeah, but we can sweeten a deal, like add in a piece that ain't gonna play, like Trevor Keels or something, or add in something to entice a team and take Evan Fournier's money, and then that way it can solve the thing that you said about being prepared for that big trade that's coming down the road. With the trade exception,
big trade. I'm just saying to be in a trade.
Okay. Yeah.
But what I'm saying, you're gonna, depending on the team though, Keels ain't gonna do it. If Fournier is sending you over the luxury tax, and I'm gonna have to pay for taking him on, then the more I have to pay, the more you're gonna have to give up for me to take it on. Is what I'm trying to say.
That's interesting,
right? I mean, if a person, the way the CBA is, in the sense I'm getting is, I understand teams not wanting to go over the first apron because it kind of limits what you can do. It seems like teams don't even want to go over the luxury tax.
Right.
Right now.
Right.
So if Fournier pushes you over the luxury tax, but they could have did this work early.
Would you just trade him for? Would you just do a peanut butter and jelly trade, like trade Fournier for 2 veterans on the bench that'll be happy to be Knicks, Like
Professional courtesy, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I get it. What you're saying, a professional courtesy to try to move him. And trust me, when you said the intent of the article, if that was the intent of the article, I think it landed. I think it
right,
landed.
yeah,
And I'm not saying the Knicks weren't looking to trade him, but
yeah.
I think they're doubly looking to trade him. And I don't even think he makes it to training camp. I think if he's still on the roster, they just ask him to stay home.
Really?
I just think that's how, yeah.
We
Because
can't
now
depend on
you're talking about the media adverse Knicks. So
Right.
now you got to ask, you got to answer questions in training camp. Well, you're going to have to answer questions about why he's not there.
Right.
Or you're going to have to answer questions about, after the article was written, blah, 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 blah. What are you going to do with Fournier now? He's back with the team. You weren't able to move him. Like, these are going to be the questions, and which is fine. But the Knicks are just media adverse.
Right. They didn't even do a Dante DiVincenzo press conference because they cited the rule that they only forced to do it during training camp, media availability during training camp.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's the Knicks. But anyway, this was interesting. So that's why, sometimes the topic is the same, but you get different perspectives when you ask, different people.
My thing is with the Fournier thing is not being a Fournier hater because I respect these professionals, man. In order to play NBA basketball, you have to be a really good basketball player just to get to this level and stay there. Right. My thing is, if you're the Knicks, though, can you solve a problem? I mean, a roster construction problem by trading Fournier? Like, is there a guy that could help us that makes Fournier's money that we can get from somewhere else?
I'm sure there is, but I'm not sure there is. There might be, but this is the other issue, though, Freezie. He wasn't in the rotation. So if you bring in a guy that's going to be in the rotation, say somebody that can absorb Obi's minutes, backing up Julius Randle. Right. Now you're in a 10-man rotation. Now that means less minutes for one of those guards, whether that's Grimes or Quickly. It just creates it just creates
or RJ, yeah.
Or RJ. Yeah.
I'm the Fournier question is intriguing and I'm not grasping at straws. I just don't want to leave a stone unturned, right? My thing is with the Fournier thing is intriguing in that do we go down this road of just getting what we can get for Fournier? Or are we targeting a team need, a roster need? And the reason why I ask you this, Queen Bee, is because if it's just about getting what we can get, how come he's still here? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it is. That's what I'm saying. Like, you talk about professional courtesy. If it was about professional courtesy, he would have been gone.
Right.
I think the Knicks are looking at it from a different perspective. Like, we can use that money in a trade, even if it's not a big trade. Let's hold on to this chip. But I do think it's getting to the tipping point now with that article.
Right.
It's getting to the tipping point. Whatever you thought you were going to do in a potential trade, is it worth the headache now? Is it worth the publicity, the negative publicity now?
I have to use the Obi Toppin thing as an example because I don't know if there was any other example that we can use with this regime. But notice the whole Obi thing, Obi decreasing minutes and all that stuff. Like, I personally thought Obi was going at the trade deadline. I'm shocked he made it past the trade deadline, right? My thing is even then I kind of felt like that Obi was going to make it until that audio came out with Obi and Tibbs arguing. And it kind of put the pressure on the Knicks organization.
Similar to the article, perhaps.
Right? And so my thing is if you're the Knicks at the draft, why didn't you just swap Fournier for a second round pick and let him go? Let him go somewhere else and do whatever it is Fournier's do on other teams, right? But the thing about it is, if you take that second round pick in this year's draft and you bring in whatever, I don't know, I don't care, I don't want to speculate about that part. But holding on to Fournier when now most teams are boxed into, most teams have full rosters now.
Right. Right.
And most teams
And
have
San
limited,
Antonio, who had so much cap space.
right. And then now they don't. So now it's like, so why'd you wait so long? Is it because you thought you could repair the Fournier situation, or you thought that maybe there was something bigger and better out there in a Evan Fournier trade?
Right. Right.
Do you think Scott Perry not being there had something to do with it?
I'm not sure. Like, everything is so tight with the Knicks. I don't even know how much, Scott Perry was even listened to by the end of his, by the end of his contract. Keith Turner does bring up a good point. You can't just trade a player for 2 second round.
Keith Turner, yes, you can. Keith Turner, don't do that. Keith Turner, don't do that. At the beginning of the league year, San Antonio had cap space. You could trade that player into San Antonio's cap space.
Into his cap space, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and get the 2 second. Teams were doing it on draft night. Matter of fact, Dallas and OKC started it off with that, with OKC trading up to 10 and Dallas trading back 2 spots, and them trading Davis Bertans right into cap space.
Right, but the team has to have cap space.
Cap space, yes. Cap space. That's the key. That's the key thing too. And San Antonio had cap space at that time.
But maybe they didn't. I mean, one of the things we don't know if teams was really wanting Fournier.
That's the thing.
Like, we getting on the Knicks front office, but what if they did call around and teams was like, nah, you're gonna have to give me a little something for that, and it ain't gonna be no second round. If you give me a first, I'll take that on, because that's gonna limit what I want to do. He doesn't fit here. I'm not sure he would even play.
Right.
You want to take up our cap space for that, you're going to have to incentivize us. Maybe that was the conversation.
Oh, Queen Bee, you know what? Maybe the thing that Tom Thibodeau saw about Evan Fournier's game is what 29 other teams saw about Evan Fournier's game. Like, what everybody around this league saw that Evan Fournier just don't have it no more. You know what I'm saying? So now, just adding Fournier to space for picks. Now maybe the Knicks have to give up picks to move Fournier.
Yeah.
And I know that's what you were alluding to, like with the assets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But man, what if Evan Fournier is just washed?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't look washed to me. He just looked like he got off to a bad start. And I think and Derrick Rose. And because the team also got off to a bad start, we were 3 games under 500.
Right.
Changes had to be, and those changes did work. In all fairness, the changes worked. And
Tibbs went, because when we were 10-13, that night I was waiting for the tweet that Tom Thibodeau was fired. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't even gonna hold you. And it wasn't just me. That game against Dallas, the one that we were like, where we looked like we were flat as pancakes.
Yeah,
I thought Tibbs was gone. And honestly,
and then we was leaving for that 5-game West Coast trip. I'm like, if he don't get fired tonight, he ain't coming back.
He ain't
coming back from that road trip.
Not with us. He ain't gonna have orange and blue on.
Right.
Right. But yeah, and so my thing with Fournier is, I don't know. I think it's an intriguing thing to think about, because what if he's not washed? What if he does have something left in the tank? And if he does, why isn't Tom Thibodeau playing him, for one? And two, how come his value is not at least at journeyman shooter off the bench level?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because teams value 3-point shooting, and this guy set the Knicks all-time 3-point record for a season. That should have some value in a 3-point shooting era, whether it's value to us or not.
I agree with you. I do think the new CBA, it has changed things up a little bit.
Right.
I think that probably has something to do with it. But you make a good point. And I feel, and we'll talk about this a bit more when we talk about the Knicks possibly being a 3 seed next season and what would need to happen. And one of the things I think needs to happen is the Knicks need to get a little older and need to get players who have playoff experience, who have played in high leverage games.
High leverage games.
And then
right.
when you think about Fournier, that's him.
That's him.
You know, that's him. But do you getting older means subtracting one of our young guys? And it's Fournier that proven veteran you would want to do it for? And probably not. I think you would probably want to do it for someone better than Fournier.
Let me offer you this then.
Mm-hmm.
Let me offer you, because you know how sometimes as pundits we speak around all the points and stuff, but sometimes we never get to a solution so people can follow exactly what we're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So here is my trade proposal for you about Fournier.
Okay.
I'm trading, and before the chat says, "Oh, they'll never do that," because you know the chat love doing that. They already have it queued up. They're like, "Oh, they'll never do that." They just waiting to hit enter, like they have their hand right here waiting to hit enter. But I would do Evan Fournier to the Miami Heat for Caleb Martin, and what that does for us is it gives us that athlete off the bench that could take Obi's minutes, right? And it gives Miami the same style of shooter that they always have on their roster. Seems like the dude that can't do anything else but knock down three. He fits that Duncan Robinson, almost Tyler Hero type role that they look for in Miami.
Right.
And what that does is it helps both teams. Now the thing is, my fear is that Caleb Martin getting here, he might beat out RJ Barrett. Tibbs, you know what I'm saying? That's my fear, kinda. You know what I'm saying? Because he'll do all the things that Tibbs likes, those 6'5" guys that are tough and do it all, right? So, what do you think about that? And Evan Fournier for Caleb Martin. And I know somebody probably said, "Well, the money don't match." Yeah, some excuse,
right,
will be in the chat.
I like Caleb Martin, but I don't know how he would be in. I don't know where he would fit in the rotation, because remember, Fournier was out of the rotation.
Yep.
But then also, if you already have Duncan Robinson, do you need Fournier? You know, I mean, Duncan Robinson last year showed that he can put the ball on the floor too. It's not just a 3-point shooter. He put the ball on the floor and he took it to the rack as well when they closed out hard on him, which is what Fournier.
But they did lose Max. They lost Max Strus though.
They did, but Miami is a defensive-minded team. There were stretches in which Duncan Robinson didn't play, until they got to the point where they, Hero got injured, Oladipo got injured, and they had to use him. Were injured, and they had to use him. I'm just not sure they would play Fournier.
I didn't ask you about them playing Fournier. I asked you how you like doing that trade, and I'm also asking you, how would you like to have Caleb Martin?
So not focusing on the Miami side, just focusing on the Knicks side. Right. I'm okay with Caleb Martin. I don't see him being in the rotation, though. I don't see him beating out anybody in the rotation for one reason or another.
Right.
Sometimes you could be better and still don't beat somebody out in the rotation for other reasons. Right. Well, I'm not averse to Caleb Martin.
Okay.
Being on the roster. And Fournier was out of the rotation anyway, so
yeah. So I would look at that's the type of deal that I would be looking at doing if I'm the Knicks. Not necessarily can I get back draft picks that I'll never use, right? Can I get a guy that I can use to help keep Jalen Brunson's window open, his championship window? Can I go get a contributor right away?
You think Martin would play?
Caleb Martin? Oh, definitely.
And who? So you're going to a 10-man rotation and reducing Grimes and Quickly's minutes?
Well, I think Tibbs likes and I'm going to say this, it's going to sound weird, but just if y'all can follow me on it, I think Tom Thibodeau likes to run a 8+1+1 rotation. Like, just because he played 9 people doesn't mean that the 9th person played significant minutes. Right, Tom. Like there was a stretch where I think Obi and somebody else was hurt, and they were basically playing 7, but they were playing 9, and Miles McBride was getting like 4 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So I think adding Caleb Martin or a player of that ilk, you know what I'm saying? I know Caleb Martin wants to play too. It's basically putting him in a Fournier situation. But I think Tom Thibodeau would prefer what Caleb Martin brings to the table as opposed to what Fournier brought.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You know, I think Tibbs would find a way to do it. And the team ran a 9-man rotation last year, right? Because they heavily depended on Brunson and Randall and played significant high leverage minutes, right? Tibbs couldn't even give Jalen Brunson a blow sometimes because the lead would evaporate as soon as Brunson walked off the floor. And I know Caleb Martin's not a point guard. What I'm saying is I think this year's team, even though it's probably the same personnel, but I think it'll be a different team. You know what I'm saying? When you give Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo a training camp and all that stuff, I think the minutes distribution and the rotation to be different, especially if you added a Caleb Martin.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think basically the 9-man rotation worked for last year's team. This year's team, those the same people will look different in my mind. It might look the same, but we hadn't seen Josh Hart for Josh Hart only played like 20-something games with us. And in fairness to him, I think he needs a full training camp with the Knicks.
There's no doubt about it. But the point, the point I'm making, regardless of the training camp, is that there's only so many minutes to go around.
Right.
Quickly was able to get close to 30 minutes because he was backing up the 1 and the 2.
Right.
You bring in somebody else in a 10-man rotation, we can do it, but let's not complain when Quickly is getting 20 minutes. Grimes is getting 20. You know, all these guys are just getting 20 to 22 minutes. That's all I'm saying.
But it's not going to affect them. It's going to affect RJ Barrett.
Okay.
I think RJ Barrett is the one.
Whoever it is, somebody's minutes is going to suffer significantly.
Right.
If you're bringing in a 10th man. Now, if you're bringing in a 10th man to play 8 minutes, you can find that. But if you're bringing in a 10th man to play over 20 minutes,
it's impossible. It's
going to be significant. Somebody's minutes is going to be shaved significantly.
Yeah.
No doubt. But let's move to the topic of the day. We're already 37 minutes in on Fournier, and I really wanted to most of the time talking about the Knicks and what they did or did not do, you know, in free agency. That if this is the team we are going into training camp with, what is their ceiling? And already, shout out to the chat. People were in here early, seeing the Knicks 3rd or 4th. Others saw us 7. So I definitely see the Knicks in the top 6, but I could see the Knicks going as high as 3. And part of that, though, is based on Miami not getting Dame, Philly losing Harden. I do see Boston and Milwaukee as the top 2 teams. And I'm not saying we can't beat Boston. I'm not saying we can't beat Milwaukee. I'm just talking about in terms of standings. I do see Boston and Milwaukee finishing ahead of the Knicks. But I do see the path for the Knicks finishing 3rd. If Miami lost 2 of their rotation players, they'll get Hero back. But if they don't trade for Dame, I'm not really high on Miami. I think Miami went on a Atlanta Hawk type run 2 years ago. I don't know if I look at them as perennial championship contenders as presently constructed. I think they got hot at the right time, and I'm not taking anything away from them. I thought that was a great run that they went on. The shooting turned around for them, and it just transformed them as a team. And then, of course, just that it's just something about, you know, they got those Hardy type guys and Lowry and Butler, like those types of guys. But as I'm looking at them for the upcoming season, I'm not looking at them the way I'm looking at Boston or the way I'm looking at Milwaukee. I'm just not. So I do think the Knicks can finish as high as 3rd, and part of that reasoning is
3rd.
Well, this is my reasoning. I am really high, and I think this is underestimated. I'm really high on regular season Jalen and Randall. I think that duo is one of the best in the entire NBA. I'm not going to say it's the number one or number two, but that combo is one of the top duos in the NBA. And I'm talking regular season. We're not talking playoffs. If you can get enough shooting around those guys, and that's not just bringing in Dante, that's Quick, that's Grimes, shooting the same or getting better, and timely shots is important as well. I hesitate to say RJ because I've just really come to the conclusion that RJ is just not a shooter, and that his game, him becoming the player that he's going to become, it has to be beyond, outside of shooting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I see a path to 3 if there's enough
3
around them. Listen, if Philly trades Harden, are you high on Philly without James Harden?
No.
Are you high on Miami without Dame?
No. Well, I am. I am, but,
okay.
but here's the thing. Here's my separator. Just because you finish with a high seed in the regular season, don't mean you can't be a thumper in the playoffs.
No doubt about it.
Right. I think Miami don't care about seeding. I just think they feel like they could be any team in the Eastern Conference. All they got to do is make it. And they've proven it. They've done it, 3 years? Yeah, we just want to make it to the playoffs healthy. When we get here, we'll beat anybody in any place at any time.
Except for the 2020-2021 season when they got swept by Milwaukee.
But you know what they did in Milwaukee the next season and this season.
Okay, but we're talking regular season finishing. We're not talking about the playoffs.
Right.
Regular season, I just, to me, my Miami.
I only said that because you said they got swept in the playoffs, though, is what I'm saying.
Right. Miami lost. Yeah, to me, it was a Cinderella season for Miami. Okay. I don't buy into. We just got to get to the playoffs, and we're going to be able to do it.
Okay.
Their shooting turned on in a way that you couldn't even imagine in the regular season when you looked at their pace, when you looked at their offensive efficiency, when you looked at their field goal percentage, when you looked at their 3-point percentage, and they got into the playoffs and boom, everybody started shooting.
They looked like the 94 Rockets.
That was
all of a sudden.
Correct. That was the difference in Miami. They shooting just really turned on. I don't have a lot of faith without Dame and Miami finishing above the Knicks. That's just me. I get it. And I have a lot of faith in Randall and Brunson in the regular season. Playoffs is something different. Now, my dark horse, I don't even know if I would say dark horse. I like what Cleveland did. In getting Strauss and Niang. I hope I said that right.
Minivan, yeah, from Philly, yeah.
From Philly. I like that because they were similar to us in the sense that they had hardly any shooting around, their main guys. But yeah, what if no other changes are made? What's the ceiling for this team?
All right. So I disagree with you.
Okay.
Right. And everybody's like, oh, this is nothing new. Uncle Freezie and Queen B don't agree. This is nothing new. Right. I think the best team in the Eastern Conference right now is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Right. I think they had issues and they addressed them. I think that the number 2 team in the Eastern Conference right now and could get better, maybe number 1, is the New York Knicks. Right. I think the Knicks, like every now and then, because there's this thing, I get these weird intuitions, and a lot of times I'm right on it. And this is one of them. I feel like I might be right on it. Every now and then, Tom Thibodeau will pull a 60-win team out of nothing. And you're like, how in the world did he win 60 games with this team? Right? And I think this may be the year because Jalen Brunson is that scoring guard that Tibbs covets. Like, I just need one guy on offense just to go out there and get me about 27, 28 a game. And since January, Jalen Brunson averaged 27.5 points a game, right? And then, excuse me, you bring in the ultimate role players in DiVincenzo and Hart and Grimes and Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein. I think this team is going to win somewhere between low 50s and high 50s. I think they're going to be somewhere between 52 and 57 wins. I wanted to come on here and say 60, but I'm not confident in that number. Right? But
So they're going to finish above 3. You think that they're going to finish with a better record than Milwaukee and Boston?
To me, Milwaukee is done.
Wow.
So here is my top 5 teams in the East. For those that keep receipts, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Cleveland Cavaliers, the New York Knicks, the Atlanta Hawks, the Boston Celtics, and then the Milwaukee Bucks. So it's Cleveland, New York, Atlanta, Boston, Milwaukee. In that order.
What's the issue with Atlanta? Why are you very confident in Atlanta?
Their head coach gets a training camp to come in. Remember, their coach came in at the end of last season.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of things. They did a lot of things bad, but they did a lot of things good. And what happened is they couldn't self-correct in enough time in order to have it be significant.
Right.
Like for instance, our self-correction started when we were 10 and 13, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. Remember how we started to self-correct? See, we had time, but they didn't have time. Their whole thing started in February, right? So they didn't have time to get everything right in order to get back on the right path.
Do they have enough talent, though? I hear what you're saying in terms of having a new coach, but what about the talent? They got Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. Right. Who else after that?
Right. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think they're right.
They got DeAndre Hunter, Capella.
Right.
They traded Collins.
Right.
I don't know. I don't see Atlanta that high, but I get your point in terms of them having a new coach with a full training camp. So they'll.
Right. So so these are my. I understand.
I understand. I
understand where you were. Like when you were mentioning yours, I was like, "Ooh, I disagree with it," but I understand where you were coming from.
Right.
And so in my mind, I think Boston takes a step back because Boston got exposed in the playoffs, and I think everybody saw that exposition, and is gonna point that out in this season. You know what I'm saying? What we're gonna do? Stop doubling Jason Tatum. Right, and force Jaylen Brown to be a playmaker, right, and see how that works out. I think people are going to take the approach of, you know what, let Jason Tatum score 40, and then let Jaylen Brown try to fix everything else.
Right,
and
with I think KP though, but they also have KP that they can also distribute the ball to on those double teams of Tatum.
But with KP, and I thought about that. When you put KP on the floor, you have to take one or of two people off the floor. You have to either take Horford off the floor or Robert Williams off the floor.
Yes.
Right. And both of those guys contribute something major to their success.
Well, you could try them. You can. I don't know what they're going to do, but you could try KP at 4, Tatum at 3, Brown at 2, and still keep
Horford.
One of those in Horford or
But that's the point I'm getting at. So if you do that, what you said, then Robert Williams have to come off the floor. If you keep Robert Williams on the floor, then Horford has to come off. Is what I'm saying. That is what I'm pointing out. Now it's good to have big man depth, but their big men contribute in a way that you'd like to see those combinations play together. But you can't play all three of them dudes together.
But they never played together. Horford and Williams didn't play together anyway. They played behind each other.
I thought they played together. I saw them stop playing Grant Williams and play Horford and Williams together.
Really?
Yeah.
In the playoffs? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah.
I can't say I watched every Boston game, but my top 5, I still think Boston and Milwaukee are better than the Knicks. So I got Boston, Milwaukee, New York, Cleveland, then Philly or Miami. But I would not be surprised if Cleveland finished above the Knicks at 3. I still have Boston and Milwaukee over the Knicks.
So I got two reasons just real quick about Milwaukee. First of
Sure,
all,
sure, sure.
first of all, Milwaukee got old in front of our eyes in the playoffs. All of a sudden, these guys look like they're 34, 35, 36 years old now. And I'm talking about the center and the point guard and those type, right? And then they also changed coaches, right? And so and I know it's easy to say, well, a rookie head coach can lead a team to the number one seed. It's possible, but it's not likely, right? We saw Boston do it 2 years in a row with two young coaches, but that's Boston. I can't see Milwaukee doing it. I think Milwaukee.
But why not? I mean, Boston did it because they had the talent to do it. Like that rookie coach wasn't coming in to a team that didn't have talent.
Right.
This rookie coach is also coming into a team with a superstar.
Right.
And but I hear what you're saying. Well,
Yeah.
super mega, whatever, however you want to put it, like one of the best one of the best in the league.
Right.
And hopefully a Middleton who is not coming off injury. Remember, he was in and out of the lineup. Even when he was back, he wasn't really back. I'm not trying to big up Milwaukee. The Knicks played Milwaukee extremely well last year.
Milwaukee got lucky twice against us.
Yes, and the games in which we lost, to your point, it was like by 2 points. So in no way am I saying, but we're not talking head to head. We're talking about everybody
overall
playing everybody else in the conference. So I still have them finishing above the Knicks, but if the Knicks can get that shooting down, I'm very confident in regular season Randall, and I'm confident in Brunson. Period.
I'm gonna say Milwaukee slides just for that reason that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not about the Knicks playing Milwaukee and Boston every night.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Milwaukee, the Knicks are gonna eat on some bottom feeders this year too. We didn't eat on bottom feeders last year. We were inconsistent last year before the All-Star break. Like the Charlotte loss was crazy. There were some losses in there. At the end of the season, we lost to Indiana and New Orleans at the end of the season. And you were like, oh, geez.
Randall was out, though.
Yeah. And so we lost some games where Brunson was out. I think the Chicago game. So I don't want to account for injuries because injuries are going to happen. We don't know to whom these things will occur, but what we do know is that injuries and its randomness happens to a lot of NBA teams, right? And unfortunately for us, we hadn't had a significant real ligament bone type injury. Guys, maybe I think RJ and Obi maybe had the most significant injuries last year. Right. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm getting at is Milwaukee, I think they take a step back because of age. Because assuming that Chris Middleton is going to bounce back to all-star Chris Middleton at age 33, I'm not for sure. I have to see it to believe it. And Adrian Griffin is a rookie head coach. Philadelphia is a mess. They have a new coach. James Harden is probably gone. I don't even want to put them into the team that I have more faith in Miami overcoming obstacles than Milwaukee and Philadelphia if I had to choose one of the three. But what I do know is now that Jalen Brunson is established as our number one guy, and now that Randall is established as our number two guy, all we need is some semblance of consistency from RJ, Quickly, Grimes, Hart, DiVincenzo, and Mitch. Right. And all we need on a nightly basis, all we need is like two of them guys just to be consistent, a consistent contributor. And now you're talking about the best team in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion.
Wow. Well, I wouldn't say consistent like in their play, consistent in their shooting. Like I don't know if maybe I'm the only one that feels that way. I feel like yes, our defense can get better. It was I think 19th for the year. Yeah. Might have been a little better after we went to the 9-man rotation. I would have to look that up again.
Yeah, we were terrible one time. Yeah.
But to me, I feel like the shooting, you got Randall commanding double teams. You got Brunson being able to get into the key. both of those guys, I think, are willing passers, but all right, maybe they could pass a little more, right?
Right.
And you got players surrounding them, knocking down shots. It changes everything.
Everything.
I remember when Miami beat Milwaukee and they had that wall around Giannis. That's how they beat him. We got this wall around and we're going to force these other guys to beat him. They didn't have any shooters. What did they do? They went out and got shooters around Giannis, even a shooting center.
Yeah.
And it changed everything. I just feel like that's going to transform the Knicks if we can get shooting. Now, obviously, we're not bringing in any other shooters. So that means the players we have, when they get those passes off of Brunson and Randall, if they can knock those shots down, yes. I'm not going to say they would finish one in the conference, but easily number 3. Easy.
DiVincenzo is the difference. Dante DiVincenzo is the reason why I'm confident that the Knicks will win somewhere between 53 and 57 games.
By himself, that's a 6 to 10 game difference.
Right. Except I didn't calculate it like that. The last 3 games of the season, but like the last 4 games of the season, I felt like we should have won all 4 games. We didn't win them. Randall was out. Jalen Brunson was hurt. And then, you know what I'm saying, you trying to give guys rest and all. So we seeded those 4 games to situation. That team, I think, could have won a 49, 50, 51 win team if we wasn't thinking about the playoffs. Right. My thing is if we're talking about adding a DiVincenzo just to be a consistent body think about how many games we lost when if you're a Knicks fan, think about when Miles McBride was playing in certain minutes when there were injuries, and take out Miles McBride and insert Dante DiVincenzo. Do we still lose those games? No. Because that point that you made about not just shooting, but timely shooting, like knocking down shots when you need the shot to be knocked down. And we had Miles McBride taking those shots from the top of the key. And no disrespect to Miles McBride, because I like him. I like Deuce McBride. But, you know, he a young player, and he's got to come along. But Dante DiVincenzo was on a roster that won a championship. And he was also on a roster that made a significant playoff run, and he had been around the GOATs of the game. Right? I'm just saying upgrading Miles McBride into a Dante DiVincenzo helps us get over the humps in some of those games that we like. If we had DiVincenzo in that Miami series, maybe our conversation is different.
Right. So you're talking about when McBride was in the rotation, because when Hart came, he was out of the rotation.
Yeah,
so
he was
about in the beginning of the season.
I'm talking about the RJ injury. Remember RJ got hurt?
Right.
That was before Josh Hart.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's putting a lot on DiVincenzo, but this is what I will say. Every season is different. And so I don't even think we can think that, obviously if the season played out the exact same way and you take out McBride and you put in DiVincenzo, you're going to be better. But the season probably is not going to play out the exact same way as it did last season.
For one, our team got better. The team that started the season last season is not the team that ended the season last season.
Correct.
So just off that momentum alone going into next season,
right?
You know what I'm saying, makes me think that we'll be better. You know what I'm saying? Because once Josh Hart got here, I think the team was on I think Dre said they were like on a 55 win pace. Like if Josh Hart had been here from the beginning, they'd have been like on a 55 win pace. So and I take that as information. I don't take it as fact.
Right.
It's just something to think about.
Right.
But if that's the case, with adding Hart and you add DiVincenzo, I think there's something probably to be said at the
no doubt about it. But I also think we got to figure out that backup power forward spot. Now, I know a lot of people have, on the one hand, you could say, at least Obi could stretch the floor at that 4 position. I think he shot 34% from 3. And in the time that he was, on the floor. And whoever we got playing the 4 now, I'm not sure they're gonna be able to do that. I don't know if RJ.
Nah, Nathan Knight is different. Nathan Knight is gonna. I'm saying it first, everybody, and I know how y'all do. Oh, there you go. Yeah, here I go. Nathan Knight is gonna remind everybody of a Kyle Quinn, right? He's gonna be the guy. Them rebounds, them dude like the big muscle bound dude on the inside that can't jump over a telephone book going in there getting. He the same size as Randall, 6'8", 250, right? And he's a small ball 5, kinda. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they brought him in to be significant, but I think they brought him in as a Jericho Sims replacement, right? He has a nose for the back. He is not the dude throwing his hand up and you asking Jalen Brunson to get the rebound so you can put your hand up and run down on the fast break. He ain't that dude. Nathan Knight is the dude that's the bowling pin. It's like 3 Chicago Bulls down there, and he runs straight to him, trying to put his body on somebody 1-on-3. And so if that's what you had been missing as a Knicks fan, I think you're gonna enjoy this cat, Nathan Knight. Everybody that I talk to, all the other teams, they like, y'all got Nathan Knight. Yeah, we got Nathan Knight. They're like, oh, he gonna be but y'all gonna love him. So
this is my hot take. I would be surprised if he was in the rotation.
I'll be surprised too, especially early on.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking is, as the season goes along, though, as Tibbs gets to see more and more of them, I think Tibbs is gonna value him. I think he is gonna be like one of the fan favorites over the course of the year, especially if and I hope it doesn't happen. But if an injury happens to one of our centers, I think you'll see him break out, kinda, because he's productive. He's productive in his minutes on the floor,
right?
Basically,
yeah, I agree with that in terms of him being situational. It's just hard for me to see the Knicks going 10 and reducing any of those guards' minutes. Or, as you said, you keep reminding me, it doesn't have to be one of the guards. It could be RJ Barrett. But right. The way RJ Barrett has been doled out minutes since he's been here, it's hard for me to see RJ Barrett going from 33, 34 minutes to 26, 25 minutes. That I would be shocked if that
especially was since he's the face of the franchise too. He the golden child. We all know this.
I don't know if he's the face of the franchise anymore. But I agree to your point that since he's been here, he hasn't really had to earn much.
Yeah, and when the Knicks do press conferences, they don't grab Randall and Brunson. They grab RJ. RJ, get out there. And RJ Barrett is their golden child. RJ, get out there and smile for the press. They don't get Brunson to do it. Brunson ain't good in press conferences. Brunson and Randall.
What are you talking about, though?
Any of them. Any of them. Anything. Brunson is not the fit. Brunson is the best player, maybe. Brunson's the best player, probably the most important player. But you don't have to be the most important player to be the face of the franchise. RJ Barrett is.
I disagree with that. And the Knicks don't even have press conferences. So I'm
not. Yeah, they have press conferences, Queen B. You know they got press conferences. They do. You know they do press availability.
No. A press conference is not like after the game when you have to have a press conference. No, you do a specific press conference for a reason. The only time I see the Knicks did a press conference was when MSG interviewed Leon Rose, right, and when they interviewed RJ Barrett after he signed an extension. But of course, he was the face of that because it was about him.
Right.
I don't remember the Knicks doing a press conference for any other reason other than that and putting RJ Barrett up front. Like, because the Knicks don't even do press conferences unless you have to do a press conference. Right. They're not even doing Dante.
Right. The media availability thing. Yeah. But the Knicks put RJ Barrett out front. And then when you look at Jalen Brunson ain't the type of dude. When you look, him and Julius Randle got the same type of. Now, I'm not saying the same emotional intelligence. I'm talking about the same personality.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with you, but I'm pushing back
because Randall emotional intelligence is
him
definitely
being the face of the franchise. Right. I like even when you see anything that has to do with the Knicks, I don't even see RJ Barrett on print lately.
Okay.
Anyway, well, I mean,
Maybe lately, maybe they sending a message to RJ, like maybe you're not the golden child no more.
yeah, I think, yeah, even more than that, we trying to move you. We just haven't been successful.
Right, that might be what it is.
You
Pack
know?
your bags.
You know, but let me check in with the chat. So I have the Knicks finishing third. You say the Knicks can finish even first or second. Chat what you think, and also chat, give me your top 5. You know, for me it's Boston, Milwaukee, New York, Cleveland, Philly, or Miami in that 5th spot, and that's if Harden is traded. If Harden is there, I still think I have Philly finishing over the Knicks if Harden remains on Philadelphia.
Right.
And then I would have the Knicks 4th. And I think, yeah, I would have the Knicks 4th. I want to read this super chat as well. Sorry. Knicks are nice CAA affiliate. I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate you always rocking, with the channel and other channels in the Knick universe. I have the Knicks making the 7th seed. Team staying pat. Go Knicks. Now, are you happy with them staying pat? Are you disappointed in them staying pat, which is why you have them making the 7th seed? And I think another question, and we could probably do a whole show on this, for all of the Knicks team, I wish we could take a poll with individual names, receipts of everybody that wants the Knicks to stay pat. And then in the middle of the season, if the Knicks falter, to see if those same Knicks are okay. Listen, I wanted us to stay pat. We're faltering right now. This is just part of the process.
Stay the course. Be patient.
Are those same fans going to be the ones that's saying, what's going on? Why aren't we winning games? Why aren't we on track to win 50 games? Why aren't we taking a step forward? But there's no way for us to keep track of those. Of that. Appreciate you. Knicks are nice. All right. Anything? Okay. Keith Turner, I just don't have us 3rd in the East. I don't see that one now. Okay.
Yeah. Keith
Mike
Turner, be patient. Yeah.
3rd seed is definitely reachable.
Right.
A la Wise, appreciate you. New York Knicks wins the division and the conference this season if healthy.
I'm with A la Wise on that.
Ashley Inc., Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Knicks. I can't even argue with Cleveland. I like what they did. The only thing I'll say, what gives the Knicks the edge over Cleveland, despite the fact that the Cleveland added much needed shooting, the Knicks are much more grittier than Cleveland. But we're talking about the regular season, right? We're not talking about the playoffs. We're talking about the regular season. I'm not going to argue that they did get the shooting. And
Knicks fans, this is your new rival too, by the way. Miami is not your rival. Miami don't care nothing about us.
Mm-hmm. Geraldine MacGyver has the Knicks 7th. Are you okay with that, Geraldine MacGyver? Are you happy that the Knicks stood pat, and that's why you think they're going to be 7th? Stafford Don. Staff and I dropping that audio. I got to edit it out. I'm hoping to do that after the show, and then I'll put out a post with the audio podcast. So look for it on all your streaming platforms. The Just Nicking It podcast. 4 to 6. Yes, definitely hit those IKBM. Appreciate you stopping by. Kerry Cox. All right. I think that's pretty much it. Somebody said the East is open.
CAA, yep. Pudge, I'm with you, Pudge.
Yeah.
And for what Pudge said, I think the New York Knicks, and I hate to drop a live grenade and then go eat lunch, but I think your New York Knicks are going to be Eastern Conference champs this season. I can't see nobody in the East beating them, not even in 6 games.
You mean in the playoffs?
In the playoffs.
In the playoffs, the Knicks are going
I think
okay.
the Knicks are going to win the Eastern Conference. I can't see anybody beating them.
I got to see the shooting. I'll know 10, 15 games in, because if that shooting is on, I can see it. I can see it.
I think there's some things that we're forgetting about,
Such as
this front office is going towards the end of their contract, and so yeah, and in order for them to, I think there are some outside environmental factors that happens off the court that puts the pressure on this team to win now.
So the front office, Tibbs, Randall, and Brunson contract all expires in the same season.
Okay.
But you're saying the pressure is on the front office, and that's going to trickle down to the team and make them play better. Okay.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you know, everybody is getting towards that point where they are going to start talking about extensions. And I think it'll be time for James Dolan to debo everybody. Like, what extensions? You know what I'm saying? And I know that doesn't sound professional, but yeah.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you, Freezie. Always a pleasure. You know, people know who you are. Blanche Tears. Check him out.
Yeah,
Hardest working man. Nick content creator. Always on. Morning show, evening show, night show.
TikToks, Patreons. Yeah,
no doubt. We'll be on tonight, 9:15, 9:30ish, Dope Soul Sports Talk. And then for those who came late, I got the new series, I Cram to Understand You, across different platforms, where we take a player or a topic and I get to hear both sides. I did the first one about Randall with Stafford Don, hoping to get the second one with Anthony D. You know, I don't think he's a Randall fan, so I get to kind of understand
just like a test. Just like a test.
I got the newsletter coming out, and then we're going to have the chat show on Tuesdays, probably around 8:30, where you'll get an opportunity to call in, come onto the show, to the panel for 2-3 minutes to give your takes, and then hit me up through my DMs or my email if you have any questions for the panel. I'm really looking forward to the Tuesday show. But Freezie, I appreciate you. The chat, I appreciate you as well. Yeah, Freezie held us down when Ron Cleveland stopped his show. Yeah, I miss you, Ron. I definitely missed that show. Man.
Yeah, y'all.
Anyway, until next time, fam.
You tune in, that means you're feeling the vibe. The bell rung, you already been subscribed. Right now, the queen, she on live. Please pull over the whip, no phoning when you drive.